Hello and welcome to Pock and Rob. In this video I am going to be doing another one of my revisited, and I am going to be looking at the albums that I ranked in 2022. It's been 2 years since I did my original, and that usually is about the right length of time for me to see what's really settled and what I've actually continued to enjoy and maybe enjoy more than I did a couple of years ago. Before I go in and do that ranking, I would remind you to subscribe if you've not already done so, to click the thumbs up, to like the video, the bell to receive notifications of future content, and share the video with someone who might like it. Our subscriber count is slowly climbing towards the 250, at which point I will do another live stream. So let's go in. I'm going to rank 20 albums, and they've shifted around. I think I originally in 2022 did a two-part video with 30 albums in it. I have condensed that down on the things that I am actually still listening to. And at number 20, Paul Heaton and Jackie Abbott's what may be their final album, NK Pop. As you probably know, Jackie Abbott has taken some leave from this particular project, and Paul Heaton's new album is only credited to him, although it features many songs that could have been easily Heaton and Abbott compositions because he has two female vocalists who join him. But NK Pop was a really good Paul Heaton album. Paul Heaton makes good songs. My number 20. And number 19, I think I'd got this just inside the 30. Might have been part of the reason why I wanted to extend it to 30. It is Fear of the Dawn by Jack White. So he released this. It's his noisy album. It's a full-on rock album. Great songs on it like Yousophobia and Taking Me Back. I really like that song. I will mention it again a little bit later on. And I managed to get hold of this from a record shop near me, brand new, for the bargain price of 11 quid. It is astonishingly cheap for a good quality piece of vinyl. Fear the Dawn, Jack White, number 19. At number 18, an album I don't own, and I'm not sure I ever will, but every time I hear tracks from it, they just give me great joy. It's The Voltarol Years by Half Man Half Biscuit. I think in my original video I extolled the virtues of Midnight Mass Murder, which is to the tune of Come Ronda, and it's really funny. But I really like Awkward Sean. I think that's a classic piece of Half Man Half Biscuit material. I'm Getting Buried in the Morning, all about a serial killer who's going to face execution, and Voltarol Years at number 18. Number 17, my kids gave me this about a year ago for my birthday because we managed to get a copy from a record fair, brand new, pretty cheap. Humble Quest by Maren Morris. She's a country artist. This is it's become a bit of a bittersweet album. So there's a track on here, I Couldn't Love You Anymore, and it's, by its title, it's kind of like, it sounds negative, but it's actually positive because it's saying I couldn't love you any more than I do now. And yet, the person who I'm assuming she wrote that about, her husband, their relationship has ended. I enjoy it whenever it goes on. At number 16, another album I don't own, but I do keep my eye out for a reasonably priced copy, Midnights by Taylor Swift. I criticised it at the time as being difficult listen. I still think it is, but there are many songs on that I come back to. So things like Maroon is very clever writing. Snow on the Beach. I have grown to like Antihero, including the ridiculous line of about sometimes I dream that I'm a monster on a hill and everyone's a sexy baby. That's improved with age. Lavender Haze and Bejeweled. I don't think it's a truly brilliant Taylor Swift album. It's no Red or 1989 or Folklore or Evermore, but it is a good Taylor Swift album. And good Taylor Swift is often way better than many others' best. On number 15, a perfect example of waiting for 18 minutes before you get something on vinyl is worthwhile because the price will come down on modern stuff. Dentures Out by the Proclaimers. And I don't think it's unfair to say this is definitely my favourite Proclaimers record. I don't think there's a dud on this record. Almost all the tracks are sub 3 minutes. Nothing hangs around for too long. Praise is a terrific track. The World That Was, Dentures Out, the title track, and Sundays by John Calvin, and The Audience Knew. I think this was just outside the top 20. It's climbed. It's gotten better. Dentures Out, really good listen, number 15. At number 14, I think I placed this originally at number 7. It's probably the thing that I'm going to review in this list that I've listened to the least since. 7 by Brooke Ligertwood. It retains its place because I know when it goes on, I'm going to enjoy the album and actually worship to it, because the opening track, Ancient Gates, this should be being sung in churches. It really should. I don't think it's caught on in that way. I really also like Honey from the Rock and Nineveh. It's just I haven't listened to this album very much because I've been on mostly listening to vinyl late. I'll probably stick this on tonight and then regret putting it at number 14. At number 13, this is part of a pair of records. They literally stand next to each other and produce a full face. This is Growing Up by Luke Combs. So he looks happy on this one. On the next album along, Getting Old, which is a double, he looks a little bit more somber. And you put the two together, it's a clever little marketing campaign. Growing Up is his fun time record. It's a good record, and that's the thing. I have listened to it this year. I enjoyed every second of it, but it's kind of forgettable compared to his other releases. That said, I'm gonna like it whenever it goes on. At number 12, this has tumbled out the top 10, but only just. It's True North by a-ha. It astounds me that they're still going after 40 years and 2 hiatuses and producing albums like True North. And we've got the title track, we've got As If, which I think is the best thing on here. I'm In, and Bumblebee, and Hunter in the Hills, and Forest for the Trees, and Bluest of Blues, which it's a beautiful song. That could have sat really pretty on Hunting High and Low, which shows that whilst they've never changed, they've never stayed still either. True North by a-ha at number 12. At number 11, I'm hoping this guy's going to come out with something new next year. I was actually hoping he might come out with something new this year, but he hasn't. It's Jacob Bryant with Barstool Preacher. This seems to be a country artist that's flown under the radar and hardly anybody refers to, mentions, doesn't appear on anything. But the opening track, Well Whiskey, I think I'd put it as my best track, my best song of the whole of 2022. It just gripped me in a way that almost nothing else that year actually did. And then I'd also highlight Baptized by the River. This is a really good, solid country record. Barstool Preacher at number 11. At number 10, this has possibly dimmed a little in my affections, but it's Master of None by Graham Day. I didn't know who he was. It was a recommendation to me at the time, and I really enjoyed it. Now, I describe this as having the feel of something like The Who Sell Out, with a healthy sprinkling of the Kinks over the top, late era 60s Kinks. And I stand by that. Rose Thorn sticking in my mind's eye, the title track Master of None, are songs that could have been recorded in the late 60s by either of those bands. My number 10. At number 9, an artist who I am wondering if they're going to release something in 2025. It is Gold Rush Kid by George Ezra. I've described George Ezra as a ray of sunshine in the world of pop, and I stand by that. And I remember being initially quite disappointed with Gold Rush Kid, but the more I've listened to it, the more I've discovered its understated charms and how it is actually, whilst not as good, it is a worthy follow-up to Staying at Tamara's. So we have the title track, Gold Rush Kid, Green Green Grass, which was the big hit single from here, although only number 3, but still a big hit single. And Anyone for You. Anyone for You is a sublime pop single. And there's, as there always is on a George Ezra album, there's a really beautiful gentle ballad. In this case, it is The Sweetest Human Being Alive. It's absolutely lovely. We need more George Ezras in pop, and I'm glad we've got one. Number 8 is an album that I think I'd placed around 16 or 17, but the more I've listened to it, the more I like it. Ribbon Around the Bomb by Blossoms. Now, this made me investigate Blossoms' previous work, and I like them. It's also made me investigate their future work, and there will be... You have to watch my 2024 to find out whether or not Gary, their new album, makes it in. The Sulking Poet is a great song on here, which to my mind is just known as Juliet, because that's the chief refrain of it. The title track, Ribbon Around the Bomb, is great, and Ode to New York City, which opens the record, is really good, and I like the guy's vocals. And it's another one of these 2022 albums that I enjoy every time I put it on. My number 8. At number 7, Jack White again with Entering Heaven Alive. I think this is the superior of his 2 records this year. It's got, for me, the better version of Taking Me Back. The acoustic and laid-back version, I think it lets the song really shine. The real hook for me on this, however, was Please God Don't Tell Anyone. I thought that was a really interesting confessional song. I like Queen of the Bees, which is about the woman that, when he recorded this, he'd been with for a while and has now married. And it's the better of the 2 records. And again, Jack White released something this year called No Name. You'll have to watch my 2024 review when that comes to see whether or not that makes it in as well. I had not really listened to anything by Jack White, although of course I knew Seven Nation Army, prior to these 2 albums. And this is probably one of the reasons why I genuinely think 2022 might be the best year of music for me of the 21st century, quite possibly of my lifetime. Big bold claim, but it's things like this. Entering Heaven Alive at number 7. Number 6. This was my, I think, number 2 album of the year, so it's clearly gone down in my affections a little bit. It may just be the fact that I'd listened to this earlier in the year than some of the other things that are coming up. Come On You Know by Liam Gallagher. Now, I do think Liam Gallagher is a tit, but I think this album is really, really good. More Power, Come On You Know, the title track, Diamond in the Dark and Everything's Electric. And Come On You Know, it's dropped down from number 6. That's just because the things that have gone above it, I've got deeper connection to. You'll see why when I get to them. Number 6, Come On You Know, Liam Gallagher. At number 5, I would love to see this band live. And if anyone's watching from their production company would like to send me free tickets, gimme, I'll happily go. Muse, Will of the People. Will of the People, they themselves described as being Muse's greatest hits of all new songs. It is a comforting familiarity blanket as far as you'll ever get with Muse. So the title track and Compliance could have easily sat on the Resistance album. There's tracks on here that hark back to Absolution, to Showbiz, to sadly to Drones. The closing track, We Are Effing Effed, definitely harks back to the sound of Drones. And You Make Me Feel Like It's Halloween. There's more in this album that sticks in my brain than everything that has come below it. I think I underestimated it because it was so greatest hits style familiar. Will of the People at number 5. At number 4, there are few albums that are more heart over head choice than this one. And it's simply because I enjoy this more than almost anything else on the entire list, even things above it. But I also know there is no street cred. Everything Under the Sun by The Fizz. This is, as far as I'm concerned, The Fizz's last album. Because this gentleman here, Mike Nolan, who was probably my first ever genuinely favourite pop star, announced his retirement, has taken his retirement, And unless there is something in the can of which we know nothing, this is the end of Bucks Fizz and the Fizz for me. Much as I like Cheryl, much as I like Jay, if there's no Mike Nolan, they're not the successor to Bucks Fizz that they were. So I'm sorry about the guys that they brought in, but I'm not interested in what you produce. From the opening track, I Wonder Where We Are Right Now, all the way through to their peerless cover of this one by Paul McCartney, and taking in so many Bucks Fizz tropes along the way. It's in fact, when the penultimate track, I'm on my way, better run, is so stuffed with Bucks Fizzisms that I kind of wonder if they might have known that this was it. This was the end. Even though it wasn't announced until 2 years later. Who knows? Everything Under the Sun by The Fizz. It's my number 4. And number 3, the best Christian album of the year, bar none. Healer by Casting Crowns. And I just think this is an absolutely astonishingly good album. It includes things like the title track, Desert Road, Second Opinions. It's just a great snarky track almost. Having a go at things like being more bothered about Pinterest than in the Bible, and belonging to the Church of Second Opinions. It's very cleverly written. Scars in Heaven is beautiful. Like I said on my original thing, I can only conclude that his dad had died not long before writing it. At number 2, you may have heard of Charlie and Lola. And in Charlie and Lola, they talk about having a favourite and a best. And in the end, I have placed my favourite album of 2022 at number 2. And I mentioned Charlie and Lola. It's interesting, really, that it's Charlie by Charlie Puth. Charlie Puth's third record. This is the best pop album of that year. I agree with Taylor Swift on the Tortured Poets department that Charlie Puth should be a bigger artist, because this is terrific. You may have heard Light Switch. That was the big single off it, and I think it's probably the weakest thing on the whole record, because I would much rather listen to Smells Like Me, or Left and Right, or I Don't Think That I Like Her Anymore, or Tears on My Piano, or Charlie Be Quiet, because it's a terrific pop album, and I really, really want his 4th album. Charlie Puth's 3rd album, Charlie, is my favourite album of the year, and therefore it's at number 2, because my best album of the year, because I've got to keep up some rock and bona fides, haven't I? It remains The Boy Named If by Elvis Costello and the Imposters. I would probably more likely listen to Charlie because I have a great time, but every time I listen to The Boy Named If, I'm reminded that this is definitely one of Elvis Costello's best ever albums. From a 45-year career, pulls out this. And the difference alone is so retro to Costello and the Attractions that it's borderline plagiarism, but it's still an original song. It's brilliant. The Trick Out the Truth, I think, has grown to really, really high stature on this record. Penelope Halfpenny and Oh Farewell OK, Paint the Red Rose Blue, Mistook Me for a Friend, Mr. Crescent, The Death of Magic Thinking, and The Man You Love to Hate. It's a superior album. I have more fun with Charlie, but The Boy Named If, I think, has got the greater longevity and is the best album of 2022. So that concludes my 2022 re-ranking. Please let me know in comments below what you think of it. I genuinely think that 2022 is a great year for music. There's a lot of stuff on here that I know I'm going to be listening to for a long time. I bought a lot of it on vinyl. We'll be back soon with another video. But before I go, I'll remind you to subscribe, like, hit the bell, share, and get our subscriber count up. And I'll just say thanks for watching.